Dear reader, allow me to introduce you to my book. Though it might at first appear like many books you've come across, it is far from ordinary. You may, therefore, have some misunderstandings about its nature. The story that awaits you has not been fully told. In fact, its conclusion is not yet known, even to myself. It is in that way that my book is special. It is in that way that you are special. Without you, there is no story. Chapter 1. Normal isn't what it used to be. This is a story about change. Nestled in a shallow valley is the town of Beacon Pines. Far from the town square, across the river, past the neglected welcome sign, a young boy walks alone at dawn. His name is Luka Vanhorn, and like you, dear reader, he's here for a reason. Was Luka's closest friend. He possessed many fine qualities, but subtlety was not one of them. Rollo finally noticed the tears swelling in his friend's eyes and the flowers on the grave. Wonderful! I had a good feeling about you from the moment you opened my book. That charm is a very special thing, very special indeed. Keep hold of it for now. Its purpose will reveal itself soon enough. Rollo looked to the side suspiciously. Dear reader, forgive me for this interlude. Remember that charm you found in the dandelion patch? There are more of those special charms to discover throughout Beacon Pines. They've been known to reveal themselves to those who are willing. Some of them can be found in this very house. Since Gran had moved in, the house was more peaceful, more orderly, and more covered in flowery fabric. Gran had already lit the fire. She kept a warm house, as if by grandmotherly obligation. One of his father's old stethoscopes. Luka had spent countless hours listening to anything and everything with it. Not for years, though. Just some dusty knickknacks. Luka paused at his parents' bedroom door. He just wasn't ready to go in yet. Gran had commandeered the upstairs closet when she moved in. Some things need shelter from a young boy's mischief, she said. Luka tossed on his favorite old sweater. Even though it was the first day of summer, a chill still hung in the air. Gran's moving in meant that most of Luka's things had been crammed in the corner. Luka was somewhat annoyed by the situation. Gran's bed was undisturbed. Luka didn't mind that she had a habit of falling asleep in front of the fireplace. It meant that he could read late into the night. Oh my, this is quite exciting. I am now certain that you are the one I've been waiting for all these years. You'll recall I was a bit coy regarding the use of charms earlier. Excuse me, I tend to have a flair for the dramatic. You are about to encounter your first turning point. There are certain times in this tale when everything hinges on a single word. Step forth, dear reader. On the other hand, I suppose there's no reason to rush things. Gran will be waiting when you return. An array of prepared meals crowded the refrigerator, each labeled with the day of the week. A pair of dull scissors, a broken can opener, a mostly empty bottle of glue, and some loose string. The only piece of furniture Gran had brought when she moved in was an old hutch. A sturdy old wheelbarrow. A beginner's guide to gardening laid open on the bench. Young Luka would spend hours hiding in the bushes, waiting for a chance to jump out and startle his mother. She always enjoyed humoring him by feigning terror. The less Gran knew, the better for everyone involved. We were just gonna go hide for the day. Traditionally, when one is trying to hide something, they avoid literally using the word hide. All's well that ends well. Impressive! You've managed to navigate your first turning point without too much of a mess. That is the power of charms. A single word can change everything. I think it's time to introduce you to the Chronicle. The Chronicle is a record of the decisions you've made. You can see the turning point, which has been revealed. At any time, you can use the Chronicle to go back and invoke different charms, creating new branches. Luckily for us, this is the one and only turning point where the charms won't dramatically alter fate. It's the perfect opportunity to experiment with rewriting things. We were just gonna go chill for the day. The best lies are built on truth. Easy. We were just gonna go ponder for the day. This was Luka's chance to sell his alibi. Nailed it. The road leading to Beacon Pines was long and uninspiring, a sort of natural barrier for the impatient. For a town that saw few visitors, the welcome was perhaps more grand than necessary. Chapter 2. Welcome to Beacon Pines. For many years, this valley had been a small mining outpost. It wasn't until Sharper Valentine built his fertilizer company that Beacon Pines was established. Over the next 30 years, the town had grown and prospered until the foul harvest and his sudden death. In the 6 years since, everyone was simply trying to get by. William Kerr was the CEO of Perennial Harvest Company. He had become a fixture around town over the past few years. After the failing of Valentine fertilizer, the town was hungry to welcome a new source of employment. Mayor Augustus Valentine was not busy. Flustered, Gus instinctively loosened his tie. Mr. Sinclair continued snoring and lifted one eyelid just enough to see who it was, a tactic he often used to avoid undesirable conversation. He pulled a pen from the pocket of his sweater vest and began to frantically jot something down on a clipboard. stopped scribbling and glanced up from the clipboard. Whenever Luka saw his dad's chair by the pond, it reminded him of the days they'd pack up a couple of sandwiches and fish until sundown. Luka opened the tackle box and picked the perfect bait. Luka gently baited a feather onto the hook, good for skimming the surface. Luka gently baited a good for skin. Luka tied a shoestring to the hook. What fish could resist a nice shoestring? Luka gently good first. The boys had a good thing going. as long as they kept old Jeff happy. They had an endless source of precious materials to add to the treehouse. After Luka's father had passed, Rollo became obsessed with them building their own Hank atomic star scraper. It was some time before Luka realized it was Rollo's way of keeping him occupied. On certain nights, when the clouds were just right, the boys could tune into strange patterns of static. Rollo thinks it's aliens. He always thinks it's aliens. Luka's winter coat decommissioned for the summer. With the cold holding out longer than usual, he reconsidered its usefulness. Luka looked up at the satellite dish. Rollo nearly killed himself putting that up into the tree. While it didn't turn the radio into an interstellar communicator, as he'd hoped, it did at least boost the signal enough to overhear truckers one town over. Luka tied a small magnet to the line. Fishing with the law of attraction. Luka tied fishing with Miss Hatch could often be found near the fountain, too absorbed in a book to be distracted. Luka could see the morning regulars nestled in their booths at the early bean. Holden Wilder ran the local paper of record, the Beacon. Oh, right. Rendezvous with Roxy. This is an important turning point. The first time where your charms will change the course of fate. And currently, we only have one suitable charm at our disposal. Have no fear, we can always return later using the Chronicle once we find more charms. Well, now I'm just rambling. Where were we? Rollo froze as Roxy took a step toward him, cracking her knuckles. Luka knew he had one chance to save his friend from being dragged home. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little chill. A bit much, if you ask me. Luka knew that if he gave up now, he'd never hear the end of it from. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little chill. Dawn had dreams of becoming a big-time reporter. At night, she searched for the story that could be her big break. By day, she hawked papers at the newsstand. Luka tied what fish? Jeff's hardware closed down about a year ago. The effects of the foul harvest stretched wide. When there are no crops in the field, tractors don't need fixing. A promise Gran regretted the second it was made. Luka knew that the phone booth was brand new, part of Perennial Harvest's Beacon Pines Reborn initiative. It didn't see much use. Luka peeked up at the beehive. It appeared to be deserted. The path led into a small hollow at the edge of Weepwood. The fence thrummed with a gentle electric buzz. Luka often asked himself what Rollo would do, so that he could rule out that option. As sparks flew from the fence, the light atop that section shut off. 2 bulbs remained. Luka knew that if he gave up, after the foul harvest destroyed their wealth and reputation, the Valentines shuttered off their estate from the rest of town. The Valentine mansion loomed over every other building in town, both figuratively and literally. The path led into the fence. Luka off. So as sparks tubal. One more to go. The fence's buzzing gave way to silence. Every kid in town knew the old Valentine fertilizer building. Long abandoned, the warehouse once served as the industrial heart of Beacon Pines. Now, it stood only as a reminder of things left behind. The dormant building showed strange signs of life. There was only one way to find out. Luka thought he heard faint sounds coming from the other side of the door. He pressed his ear against the cold metal to hear better. The sound of footsteps grew louder. The heavy steel door knocked Luka to the ground. Disoriented, he looked up to see an imposing figure silhouetted in a green glow. It lunged toward him. He tried to scramble away, but felt a gloved hand latch onto his ankle. Luka watched his fingernails leave trails in the dirt as the hand slowly dragged him back through the door, into the lab, into the green light. This is a story about change. It was far from the sort of change Luka imagined for himself. But change is, after all, a dangerous animal. The end? I probably should have warned you about this. There are many paths that our story can take. Most will end in tragedy, but don't let that discourage you. We will find the ending that this story deserves. I just know it. From here on out, a charm will have a check mark when it's been used to its full potential at a given turning point. Now, let's try something different. In the past, he found the best way to deal with an enraged Roxy was to be a little shit. Solomon Valentine, current ward of and future successor to the Valentine fortune, huffed as he brushed off his pants. Solomon trifled a gesture toward the approaching heiress Valentine. As the glowing windows of the old warehouse came into view, Rollo began to bounce excitedly. I sat petrified under the weight of the bag. Rollo felt around at the large sack which burdened them. He snapped off a tag from just within a small zipper opening in the bag. Rollo held the badge up to a faint shaft of light within the dumpster. Luka sat in the dark, tracking the sound of Rollo's footsteps as he ran. 1, 2, 3. He pressed his ear to the dumpster wall, straining to hear Rollo's footsteps as they faded away. 15, 16, 17. He tried not to think about the contents of the dumpster as he counted. 35, 36, 37. The thick stench made it hard to breathe. Screw it, that's long enough. Luka carefully lifted the lid and peered out. Nothing. No sign of Rollo. No sign of the man in the yellow suit. Time to haul ass. Luka clambered from the dumpster, stumbling to his knees. He was up like a shot and running, sprinting toward home as fast as he could. Beacon Pines flew by, blurred by the tears that welled up in his eyes. He wouldn't remember getting home at all that night. Throwing his front door open, storming up the stairs to his room and surrendering to sleep almost as abruptly as he hit his pillow. Chapter 3. Finding a Friend. The next morning, it was quieter than usual at the breakfast table. Only the sound of silverware and chewing interrupted the awkward silence. Gran's brow furrowed. She let out a long sigh. Her voice was quiet and even. electronic sound floated in the air. Luka glanced at the now silent walkie-talkie. He wasn't sure what to think. He wasn't sure. A pit formed in Luka's stomach. Luka's mouth felt dry. Luka could feel his heart beating in his throat. Luka, what fish? looked up from the clipboard excitedly.
We all know Beacon Pines is a great town. What you may not know is great towns grow from mighty roots. And that is why you cannot tell the story of Beacon Pines without telling the story of one Shopper Valentine. Young Shopper's keen intellect and strong moral fiber led to a grand vision. A vision of a community dedicated to a better tomorrow. In his own words, a better tomorrow is within our grasp, but it requires a singular mind to harness it. Lucky for us, he decided to grow that vision here, in Beacon Pines. And how does one grow a better tomorrow? With fertilizer, of course. Valentine's Fertilizer Company became the lifeblood of a town yearning for purpose. But then tragedy struck, a scientific experiment gone wrong. An accident which took Shopper away from us far too soon. To this day, we struggle to pick up the pieces. But one foul harvest isn't enough to stop the people of Beacon Pines. The spirit of Shopper Valentine lives on. It lives in the hearts of everyone with a dream for a better tomorrow. Together, we will follow his example and grow a bountiful future. Paid for by the Valentine family and the Valentine Fertilizer Company Remembrance Fund.
A bit much. Jeff's hardware closed. The effects of the foul harvest strike when there are no crops. There were rarely any actual new additions. Simply a variety of existing content rotated into the front display each week. Oh, the cobs I've eaten. A salad-centric travel guide for the mildly adventurous. Sally Seashore's simple succulent sundries. Luka brushed off a smudge of dust. Or maybe it was flour. 30 recipes so easy you'll doubt it's even edible. A peek behind the curtain. The methods and ruminations of Patrick C. Montesquieu. One of the greatest acting minds of our time. By Patrick C. Montesquieu. The bottom corner shelf was a dusty array of thick science books. Only one binding was clean enough to read. Cellular Biology and the Chemistry of Mitosis. Mycological Phosphorescence. The entire top level of the library was devoted to comics, most of which were Hank Atomic and the myriad of lesser revered spin-offs. Kato volunteered at the library during the summers. He wasn't very social, so he'd dedicate each summer to becoming an expert in a single subject, making him a reliable source of very particular knowledge. If you were to ask Kato something he didn't know, he'd escape into the dusty old bookshelves and return with just the right thing. Kato was lost in his reading. Luka crooked his neck to see the title, Introduction to Melitology. He gestured to the shelves. Beck's family moved often, giving her little time to establish any real connections. She would tell you she prefers it that way. Luka shifted his feet uncomfortably. Beck pulled a coin from her pocket. Luka felt a chill as he approached Beck. Her eyes were locked on the strange green liquid. The nearby grass was coated in a fine layer of frost. Luka watched as Beck dipped a broken tree branch into the goo. Beck's eyes widened as flowers grew from the dead wood. First small buds, which quickly bloomed into vibrant petals. As quickly as they had grown, the flowers began to shrivel and turn gray. Beck dropped the stick with a grunt of disgust. Iggy took a step towards Luka, his sneer lit by the glowing puddle. Beck could see tears welling in Luka's eyes, his fists clenched. Some things about Beacon Pines were very different from the city, but a bully from a hayseed town is really no different from a city bully. Beck took a deep breath and thought. Well, time to bust out the tickles. Beck lunged forward and began to tickle under Tish's arms. Tears began to form in Tish's eyes as she gasped for breath between gales of laughter. Beck redoubled her efforts until Tish finally had had enough. Iggy's eyes darted around, a realization dawning on his face that he was now outnumbered. Iggy kicked at the puddle before making his escape. Beck shook the ooze out of her hair as best as she could. Chapter 4. The Best Policy. Luka paused for a moment, catching his breath. He'd only just met Beck, and somehow he already managed to drag her into this mess. Hopefully he could make it up to her, but finding Rollo was his primary concern. Well, time to bust out the strange. Beck stared in silence, the only sign of life being the twitch of an eye. At the sight of Iggy taunting Beck, something in Luka snapped. Iggy's smirk shifted to a look of shock as Luka launched himself into his stomach. Iggy's clothes were drenched in the glowing ooze. Iggy's voice began to slur as he struggled to get up. This is a story about struggle. Luka could hear a machine humming somewhere nearby. He felt around wildly, searching for something, anything that could help. His hands found a hard object, maybe a tile? He yanked it free, lifting the cold stone. Let me go! Luka swung the tile as hard as he could at the shape that still held fast to his leg. He heard the crack of glass as the stone hit the assailant's mask. With a muffled yelp, the hand let go. Luka was free and scrambled to the door. He never looked back once on the long run home. Chapter 3. Everything's fine. The next morning, it was quieter than usual at the breakfast table. Only the sound of silverware and chewing interrupted the awkward silence. Roxy and Fitz looked drained. It was clear they'd spent all day searching. Roxy's temper could often be dismissed as the impatience of an older sibling. But this was the most intense Luka had ever seen her. Her eyes were wild and unfocused, looking straight through Luka. In a torrent of rambled words and tears, Luka broke down. Roxy, still exhausted and angry, softened briefly as her eyes hunted the ground in thought. With a determined sigh, she looked up at Luka. Roxy drew herself up. Roxy tried to think of the safest place to send Luka. Luka wiped his cheeks and gave a quick nod. Looking into the puddle, Roxy rubbed her arms to warm up. The Valentine mansion loomed over every other building, both figuratively and literally. Mr. Nuncree jumped with a start. Luka motioned to the phone booth. Mr. Nuncreed gently placed one of his substantial hands on Luka's shoulder. Luka peered up at Mr. Nuncreed. Kind eyes warmed a stern face. There was a deeper emotion hiding beneath it all. It was subtle, but Luka could sense something eating away at him. There was a shame lurking behind those eyes. A deep sadness. If Mr. Nuncreed was that worried about Rollo, maybe he could help. Mr. Nuncreed raised an eyebrow. Mr. Nuncreed's shoulders slumped. A deep sigh bellowed from his chest. Luka attempted to take a step back, but Nuncreed's hand clamped down on his shoulder. With a firm shove, Nuncreed manhandled Luka into the phone booth. The door latched shut with a mechanical hiss. As Luka pounded the glass, the floor dropped from under his feet. The inside of the phone booth was now a loose capsule plummeting at gravity's whim. Luka winced and pressed his hands to the walls. As he braced for impact, the capsule hurried to a surprisingly smooth stop. He felt a cold rush of air and opened his eyes with hesitance. Two large figures in hazmat suits occluded his view. Luka heard the deep, resigned voice of Mr. Nuncreed over an intercom. He knows too much. The end. Wait. No. This isn't the end. I know there's still much more. Somehow this went wrong. Okay, let's try something else. Luka checked the soles of his sandals. Luka stuck a toy stretchy hand onto the hook. Those things always get dirty anyway. Luka placed a sinker on the line. Sometimes the best stuff is at the bottom of the pond. Luka wrapped some tape around the hook. Hey, you never know. Luka wrapped. Hey,
We all know Beacon Pines is a great town. What you may not know is great towns grow from mighty roots, and that is why you cannot tell the story of Beacon Pines.
Huddled at his counter, Hiram Tolliver was meticulously shining apples. More accurately, Hiram Tolliver was meticulously shining one apple. With a yelp, Mr. Tolliver fumbled the apple, flailing at the air as it fell. He leaned forward and lowered his voice. He leaned in a bit further. Mr. Tolliver leaned back, speaking loud enough for anyone to hear. He reached forward and snapped up the jars of jam, giving Luka a little wink. He leaned in for a final whisper. Eris Valentine, oldest of Sharper Valentine's children, and heir to the Valentine fortune, had a way of making questions seem like demands. Mr. Wilder had learned to assume that if he was hearing from Eris, it was because she had taken issue with something he had put in the paper. Mr. Wilder averted his gaze and began to polish his monocle. Kato motioned to the book in front of him. Mr. Nuncreed eyed Luka for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Luka handed the gem to Mr. Nuncreed, and he nestled it with both hands. She leaned forward and pinched Luka's cheek. Luka shifted the basket uncomfortably. Mrs. Fratelli lifted the cloth and inspected the jam. Beck locked eyes with Luka. The look on her face was equal parts expectant and desperate. Beck gave Luka a quick nudge. Luka rap. Hey,